I would like to welcome you all, the audience who are watching us online, who are with us, esteemed colleagues, both from the defense industry and both from the academy. We'll have a panel on the Eastern Mediterranean geopolitics. We'll focus on how the power structure and how each state's envision and projection in the East Mediterranean Sea changed through time in the last decade. As we know, since the flotilla crisis in 2010, nothing was the same, and all the states, including Israel, Greece, Turkey, Egypt, and even the European Union countries, have changed their strategies towards East Mediterranean Sea throughout this period. And we'll have our experts to share their ideas on why and how this change occurred for the countries of Egypt, Turkey, and one of our panelists will present a large picture of the power dimensions of the region, and we'll then follow up with a QA session, and we hope this is a lucrative and beneficial panel for all panelists and audience as well. We'll start with Giuseppe, and he'll explain Egypt's position in the East Mediterranean Sea. For them, it is the Great Sea. And he'll elaborate on how Egypt changed its strategy towards the East Mediterranean Sea after the energy discoveries, and how this energy dimension sort of reflected and enforced itself in the Egyptian foreign policy. Giuseppe, the floor is yours. We're listening.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the introduction. Unfortunately, this situation allows only a virtual presence, but nonetheless, I'm very glad to participate to this panel with this kind of colleague, with estimate colleague. For this reason, I would like to thank the organizer, in particular the chair of this session, Dr. Furkan, Halit, YOLCU. It's right? Okay, for the kind invitation. Today, I will try to describe the Egyptian perspective in the Mediterranean. For trying to introduce this issue, we need to start from the context. And in this sense, it's more important to understand that in the last decade, especially, the deep transformation moving through the Med region have created new challenges that overlap with all crises. In fact, the conflict in Libya and Syria, the clashes over natural gas resources among littoral countries, or the maritime disputes in the Levantine Sea, without forgetting the several socio-economic factors existing in each country of the basin, create or contributed to foster a growing regional power competition. In this sense, it's clear that natural resources spawn wealth, but they can either promote cooperation or elicit conflict. And in this complex and ever-changing scenario of the Mediterranean region, several littoral countries promoted also national proactive foreign policy in order to satisfy the national economic interest, its geo-economical and geopolitical ambition, and to expand their respective regional status. In this scenario, Egypt and Turkey emerge as part of this contemporary chaos, because both countries are ready to reshape their geopolitical role in the Mediterranean, enhancing a political military presence in the wider area. In this sense, my proposal examines the driver and the consequence of the Egyptian interest in the Mediterranean, but at the same time, I will try to present an opportunity of work in which Cairo, Ankara, and the other regional players could try to define supporting the escalation in order to create an inclusive and a real multilateral framework of cooperation to overcome the existing fault lines in the wider Mediterranean. But this history comes from the past and comes from the Egypt in particular, and precisely from the death of the President Nasser in the 1970s. Why? Because from this period, Anwar Sadat tried to revive Egyptian connection with the Euro-Mediterranean bloc. But this shift has been possible only in the aftermath of the Cold War, when the Mubarak presidency pushed a pan-Mediterranean policy aimed to diversify the regional allies and to circumvent international irrelevance and regional exclusion of Egypt. Today, as then, Egypt with Al-Sisi has sought to promote its strategic interests in the uncharted water of the Mediterranean. And in particular, since 2013, the new Egyptian course has fostered political and economic relations and increased integration across the region, in particular with the countries of the European shore, in order to not see reduce its influence and interest in the Mediterranean basin, but also to expand its leverage in the Middle East. Today, Europe is the largest trading partner of Egypt, is the second aid donor, and a major partner in its war against terrorism. In this regards, it's clear how the Mediterranean is a natural hub and a key scenario for Egyptian foreign policy ambition and projection, because Cairo has positioned itself as a crucial player in the regional dynamics, exploiting its pivotal position among different quadrants, from Maghreb to the Red Sea, in the Euromed, in the Middle East, and fostering a new assertive geopolitical posture, also thanks to a modernization of its armed force and in particular of its navy. But the Egyptian interests in the East Med are compatible with the vision of other partners and competitors. For example, Greece, Cyprus, Gulf countries, Israel, and last but not least, Turkey. And in particular with Turkey, Egypt have some problems in different scenarios. For example, in Libya, but also in the Levantine tension about the disputed maritime borders. But this situation, for example, Libya and maritime tensions, are issues closely linked and relevant for these players. In this sense, like Egypt, Turkey claims in the East Med infringe on what Greece, Cyprus, Israel, Egypt insist are their own maritime borders. Another example is what Egypt and Greece in the August of this year signed. These countries signed an agreement on the exclusive economic zone in an area containing promising oil and gas reserves. The Greek-Egyptian agreement is intended to nullify the Turkey-owned maritime agreement with the Libyan GNA and to challenge Ankara regional ambitions. In this sense, Egyptian projection is designed to support a growing role in the regional maritime affairs, to support national geoeconomic interest. In addition to contain Turkey interest, Egypt reinforces its relation with the littoral country and extra-regional players in order to preserve its influence in the region, to reinforce its central role in the Med area, to expand its diplomatic networks abroad in the Middle East, and in this sense to search new opportunities in the strategic neighborhoods, like in the Red Sea or in the Eastern Africa. Undoubtedly, this projection of Egypt will ensure a growing status and leverage in the trans-regional context, but at the same time, it's a position that permits to reduce, at least, the dependence from the Saudi Emirati duopoly. The question is why? Well, there are several reasons and answers to support the Egyptian strategy. One of these is the energy factor, strongly related to an economic dimension. In fact, Egypt has been brought into competition with Israel over offshore natural gas in the East Med, but its competition is increasing focus with Turkey. From an economic point of view, Egypt hopes to greatly revitalize its economy thanks to the gas discovery in the Mediterranean waters, because Zohr, Noor, East Obayed, and other gas fields in the Egyptian offshore gives Cairo almost half of its production and have a great potential to transform its national economic system. In this way, Egypt has the resources to produce national wealth and to implement investment in specific sectors like education, health, or scientific research. In this way, like Turkey, the Egypt return to the Mediterranean is aimed to improve Cairo's capability as a blue water player and to protect its geoeconomic interests and assets in a wider quadrant, from the Mediterranean to the Red Sea. Nevertheless, in this balancing act of a regional system, the Mediterranean presents also some weak opportunities in terms of peaceful multilateral cooperation. In fact, the gas discovery have implemented tension, leaving Egypt and Turkey at the opposite extreme of this scheme, of this competitive scheme. And in its part, Egypt is working with the regional player to enlarge and share the Eastern Mediterranean gas forum, an important forum for regulate the situation among the littoral countries from which Turkey is excluded. This attempt to modify the EMGF is an attempt to define a new multilateral framework of cooperation with the Union European. Well, this is an imperfect proposal, but this is true that an inclusive multilateral process could encourage an holistic approach in which we must arrange a regional pattern of economic cooperation, informal dialogue, and political interdependence among the countries, useful to overcome the existing fault lines. In fact, the only way out to have a new situation is to get all regional countries to sit and talk. Because in Europe, some countries consider a warning sign to not consider Turkey concerns in the Middle Eastern and Eastern Mediterranean dynamics. It's crystal clear that a mediation promoted by European Union, and in particular from Germany or Italy, could be a good opportunity to dismantle this atomic bomb, because it's impossible to distinguish single issue, for example, Libyan crisis or maritime disputes, without a comprehensive vision that involves also Turkey in the broader regional system and Turkey and the broader regional system as a whole. These issues are now interwoven, and these apply to Turkey as well to Egypt, Greece, Israel. This is more important also consider the fact that Europe and Turkey need one another on a wide range of issues, from migration to security. Anyway, the last important point is that the power struggle between Turkey and Egypt in the Eastern Mediterranean represents also a great bonus not only of the East Med dynamics, but is a grave momentum that are further complicated by Middle Eastern factors. For example, the Arab boycott of Qatar is an example of this situation, because Qatar is a strong ally of Turkey in the Middle East, with which it shares some points in the regional agenda, like Islamism. In this scenario, Egypt shares a deep mistrust of the Turkish strategy, and that's the opposite in Libya. But at the same time, the Libyan factor could be a turning point in the escalating tension in the Mediterranean, because the latest development in a regional meeting in Tunisia and in Morocco could bring Libya to know a process towards a post-war transition, as never before in the recent past. In this sense, a deal between proxy competing power could expose Egypt and Turkey to consider a false strategic dilemma. Is it more convenient to push a proxy military confrontation, or to reach an imperfect deal useful to boost informal dialogue and diplomacy also in other contexts? In this sense, a success in these talks might persuade competing power to consider the Libyan platform a model to be replicated elsewhere to solve tension in this country, but to solve tension in the Eastern Mediterranean. In this sense, it must be clear a concept that no one can win a war in the Mediterranean, but a diplomatic solution can help to solve the disputes. In conclusion, I think that multilateralism is the best response to crisis in the region and the best hope to mitigate tension, as well to normalize the regional instability in order to promote a real positive agenda of cooperation for the Mediterranean. I concluded, but I'm at your disposal for any question. Thank you.
Thank you, Giuseppe. Our esteemed colleague from Italian Institute for International Political Studies have summarized the Egyptian perception of the last decade in the East Mediterranean Sea, with a particular focus on Turkish-Egyptian relations, I guess. It was really useful for us. Thank you, Giuseppe. We'll come back to you in the Q&A session. With, I think there are 2 questions relevant to your presentation. And now I'll leave the floor for Mr. MEVLÜTOğLU. He's an expert in the defense industry, currently working on the defense industry as a vice president of the ODC Technology. He's a consultant for many defense procurement projects, and any sort of military equipment is at his disposal to analyze and discuss about it. So we will have him elaborate on the power changes in the East Mediterranean Sea in the last decade. The floor is yours, Arda.
Thank you very much, Furkan. And just a moment, and I will switch to my presentation now. Is it okay?
Yes, we are able to see. Just make it full screen. Try to remember that.
Okay. Can you see my full screen presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And again, thank you very much for being together. And also, it is more than a pleasure listening to Giuseppe about Egypt and the regional balances. And as Furkan introduced, I will be speaking about the power dimension of the regional competition or power balances of power in Eastern Mediterranean today, with a more emphasis on the 4 major states in the region and their programs and ambitions in defense sector, armament acquisition policies. So here is the contents of my presentation today. I will just start giving a very, very brief overview on the major issues and developments in the region, and then a quick summary about the balance of power in the region, with an emphasis on air forces and naval forces of the states. And then after the summary, we will see that there are some trends and hot topics or issues that are of particular interest and that that are useful to monitor in the period to come, and then followed by my forecasts and conclusions about the matter. So I won't be spending too much time on summarizing why Eastern Mediterranean is important, or what is taking place, or what are the main issues, because it's a very hot topic, with the exception of the last few weeks, if not months, because of the conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh, and also some other developments elsewhere in the world, like the United States elections or other things. But Eastern Mediterranean has always been a major hotspot in the world because of its geostrategic importance, because of its role as a junction point between the three continents, Africa, Asia, and Europe, because of the recent energy discoveries, and also lately EEZ disputes among the coastal states. As we all know, the Syrian civil war and also the conflict in Libya have significantly changed and challenged the regional balance, and also these two conflicts, these two humanitarian crises also have profound effects on the global system, international relations, international security environment. So those two conflicts, not with their effects and with their damages, they are not just regional issues but also global issues. And also there are more than some bilateral and multilateral disputes in the region, like we saw in the summer months between Turkey and Greece, and also France as a Mediterranean power, as a European power, and the only nuclear power in the European Union, also intervened in the Eastern Mediterranean politics. We also have Russia as a very important player in the field, which is not a coastal state but has become a coastal state with the military presence in Syria. We also have another non-coastal state but a very important figure in the field, which is United Kingdom. United Kingdom is elsewhere in the world, but with two main bases in Cyprus. United Kingdom is also a very important actor, and also last but not least we have the United States in the area. So Eastern Mediterranean has become a boiling point with a lot of coastal and non-coastal states in the power struggle. Among all these issues and geopolitical challenges and also military challenges, the coastal states have started ambitious upgrade and modernization projects for their armed forces. And within those states, the four countries are more prominent than others, which are Turkey, of course, one of them, Greece, Egypt, and Israel. Those four states have the most powerful armed forces in the region, and their trends, their preferences in acquisition policies, their military actions, their military interventions are all shaping the geopolitical equation in the region. So, going next and starting with the naval forces of the region, if we have a close look on the composition of the coastal states' navies, we see some very interesting remarks. We see some very interesting trends and force structures. The Greek Cypriot administration's navy is limited to a coast guard force, but interestingly, with the increase in or with the deepening military relations with Israel, they have been building up their navy or their coastal guard force with Israeli manufactured boats and systems, namely the SAR 62 patrol boat, which has entered service very recently. Israel has a very small navy compared to other states in the region, but traditionally their frigates, corvettes, and offshore patrol boats, offshore patrol vessels, they are always over-equipped. They are relatively small in size and displacement, but they pack huge firepower, and also they are equipped with a lot of different types of electronic warfare and electronic intelligence systems. But interestingly, Israel operates a large submarine force compared to its size. They have 3 Dolphin 1 class submarines and also 3 Dolphin 2 class submarines. The last one is about to enter service or already commissioned very recently, I'm not sure. And they also ordered 3 advanced submarines. An interesting thing is that all these submarines are German design and German manufactured. And also Germany undertook a huge portion of the cost for building these submarines as a reparation for the tragedy occurred in Second World War. Another interesting thing is that the Dolphin 2 class submarines are also equipped with large torpedo tubes, larger than traditional conventional torpedo tubes, which led to claims that Israel is going to use those submarines as a launch platform for long-range cruise missiles, even maybe tipped with nuclear warheads. So that is a very controversial topic, which is neither confirmed nor denied by the Israeli government. Lebanon has a very tiny force that can hardly be defined as a navy, and which also took a severe blow in the latest explosion that occurred in Lebanon port. So it is not a significant player in terms of naval force or patrol force, or even a coastal policing Coast Guard force. Egypt is going very ambitious, large-scale upgrade and modernization project for its navy as well as for its air force, which we'll see later. After the coup in 2013, Egypt has taken delivery of several very large and very powerful ships. They took delivery of the 2 Mistral-class helicopter landing ships, which were built for Russian Navy, but not delivered after the annexation of Crimea. Egypt also took delivery from France 1 Frem-class frigate, and also very recently signed a deal with Italy for the purchase of 2 frigates of the same class. So they will be operating 3 Frem-class frigates, which are equipped with very modern radars and very modern missiles. They also have frigates built by United States, and also very recently Egypt has ordered 6 Meko-class frigates from Germany, which are also equipped with very modern radars, surface-to-air and surface-to-surface missiles. For the smaller size patrol force, Egypt has taken delivery of 4 Govind-class next-generation corvettes from France, and also they operate a large number of different classes of corvettes and patrol boats produced by China, United States, and Russia. And in the submarine side, Egypt is taking delivery of 4 Type 209 class modern submarines, again from Germany, and they also have 4 Type 033 submarines manufactured by China, but upgraded by United States in early 1980s. So Egypt operates a relatively powerful navy compared to its size. Coming to Syria, because of the civil war, Syrian navy has been devastated. Its operational status is unknown. The number of operational ships and patrol boats is unknown. There are no reliable or verifiable information and data about Syria's navy. So all these figures are very doubtful. Their authenticity cannot be confirmed. For Turkey, Turkey is operates one of the largest navies in Mediterranean as well as in NATO. Turkey is building one LHD, Anadolu, which will enter service in the coming year or maybe next. And Turkey operates 8 Meko-class frigates of different types and 8 Gabia FFG-7 class frigates manufactured by United States. Those Gabia-class frigates have received extensive upgrade by local companies, Turkish companies, and also Turkey is building one Istanbul-class frigate, which is an upgraded version of the Milgem corvette, 4 of which are in service. Designated as Arda class, Milgem is an indigenous design and manufactured locally, and it supports a fleet of 6 Burak class corvettes, which were procured from France in early 2000s. Turkey also operates a large patrol boat fleet, and Turkey also has one of the largest submarine fleets in Mediterranean as well as NATO, with 4 209 early class submarines and 8 later versions of 209 class submarines, and 6 next generation submarines of German design are being constructed. As for the Greece again has a very powerful submarine fleet. They have 4 Type 2 14 submarines and a fleet of 13 frigates, which are going to be, some of them are going to be upgraded in the coming years. Coming to the Air Force side, we see that Israel, Egypt, Turkey, and Greece has the most powerful combat aircraft fleets. Israel and all of these countries operate United States manufactured aircraft, F-16s namely mostly, and in this Israel case, F-15s also. Turkey and Israel operate the largest fleet of transport and tanker aircraft. And in the intelligence and economic warfare side, Israel, Egypt, and Turkey also dominate the region. And also Turkey has a very large fleet of attack helicopters and transport and general purpose helicopters. It is worth mentioning that the majority of the Turkey's attack helicopter fleet was manufactured locally, namely the attack helicopter manufactured under license or joint development with Italy. So those 4 countries have the most powerful air powers in the region. And there are some very interesting trends. Excuse me for adding Bulgaria, but it's from a previous list, so you can neglect it. Having a look at Egypt, Greece, Israel, and Syria, we see that especially Egypt is running through a very ambitious upgrade program for its air force, acquiring modern combat aircraft from different sources like Rafale from France, Su-35 and MiG-29s from Russia, and also negotiating with Italy for Eurofighter Typhoons, all of which are very modern and capable fighter aircraft. Greece is upgrading its F-16 fleet to the latest version, and also they are planning to induct F-35 for the Air Force, and also Israel is taking delivery of F-35s and also using them also. So, as you see, we have a lot of F-35s in the table. So F-35 is worth mentioning because it is the new kid on the block. It is the new actor in the region. Israel has around 20 F-35s in 2 squadrons, and they will take delivery of 30 more. And Israel is actively using F-35s in military operations in Syria and in the region. Greece, according to open sources, is planning to get delivery of around 20 or 24 F-35s. We know that they are negotiating for, or they are planning to get the aircraft. It is in their plans. Very lately, not a coastal state, but worth mentioning is that the United Arab Emirates has started foreign military sales acquisition process with the United States for 50 aircraft with a very large weapons and armament package. So United Arab Emirates will be taking delivery of these fighters. United Kingdom has based a number of F-35s in the Akrotiri base in Cyprus, and those aircraft participate in operations within Operation Inherent Resolve, as well as United States also. United States also deploys some F-35s in the region. And as we all know, Turkey, once a partner in the project, was expelled by United States due to the delivery of S-400 air defense systems, and the aircraft manufactured for Turkey are denied delivery. So there are some common trends, and there are some interesting issues. When we take a look, we can notice them. One of them is submarine projects. All of these 4 coastal powers are running ambitious submarine projects, like Israel getting submarines from Germany, like Greece they operate Type 2 14 air-independent propulsion submarines, and they are also going to take delivery of advanced torpedoes, probably from Germany. Egypt is taking delivery of modern submarines, again from Germany. Turkey's entire submarine fleet is composed of German designs, and Turkey also will take delivery of next generation, again, German designed submarines. So Germany dominates underwater markets in the region, so to say. Another important trend in the naval upgrade programs of the coastal states is an emphasis on corvettes and offshore patrol vessels, smaller scale combatant ships, which are very useful in operations other than war, like flag display, like patrol in exclusive economic zones, like patrolling in energy fields and energy resources. And lastly, there is an increase in manufacture and development of drones, unmanned air vehicles. As we know, Turkey has become a major drone superpower. Israel is a major drone power, and Greece is running projects to acquire drones from the United States and Israel. All of these countries are planning to use drones for maritime surveillance, maritime intelligence gathering, and reconnaissance missions because of the increased requirement for patrol over energy fields and exclusive economic zones, as well as conflict zones. As a last note, to have a look at Turkey's ambitions in upgrade and modernization projects, we have the Anadolu LHD, which will significantly boost the power projection capabilities of Turkey. We have the Milgem National Designed Corvette project, which is in service and which is also being built for Pakistan Navy. We have Istanbul Frigate project and Aerial Warfare Destroyer project, TF2000, which are again under design and construction phases. The Type 214 design race class is based on German design, but with huge local content, and Turkish Navy is also planning to design, develop, and build Milden national indigenous submarines in the long term. We have the TFX national combat aircraft with capabilities for under 5th generation. And last but not least, Turkey, as I mentioned, has become a drone superpower, as we saw in operations in Syria, northern Iraq, Libya, and lately Nagorno-Karabakh. Turkey not only develops drones, but also develops tactics and concepts to effectively use drones in the modern warfare. As a conclusion, I personally see that there will be increase in bilateral and multilateral disputes and also alliances in the region based on the shifting geopolitical equation. And within that framework, I see that regional states, regional powers will increase their interoperability and capability of planning and conducting joint operations. We saw some clues for this trend as in exercises between Greece and Israel, and also Greece and Egypt. Those forces displayed joint operational capability in naval and air force domains. And the focus on drones, submarines, and offshore patrol vessels and corvettes will likely continue. Those countries will continue their projects for acquisition and construction for such platforms, and those platforms will dominate the seas and skies of Eastern Mediterranean. And as we see in the Turkish and Egypt cases, there will be more emphasis on power projection capabilities, not in terms of ranges of ships, but also in terms of logistics supports and amphibious capabilities. Last but not least, all of these states, especially Turkey and Israel, are putting special emphasis, special focus on intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and electronic warfare capabilities, because those assets are useful not only in crisis or conflict times, but also in peace times to collect intelligence, real-time, time-critical intelligence. And that concludes my presentation, and thank you very much for your patience and time. Thank you.
Thank you really much. Mr. MEVLÜTOğlu focused on how the power dimensions changed in the last decade regarding the region of Eastern Mediterranean Sea. It was really useful. Sorry. it was really useful to see how the countries sort of positions itself in the military dimension and how they upgrade and where do they need the necessity to upgrade themselves. And this really shows the idea that if any sort of conflict is going to take place, it's going to take place that in the dimension where states upgrade themselves most. So this was really useful for us to see how, if a conflict was to arise, how it was going to happen and how it should sort of reflect the future of the region. Now I'm going to start my own presentation, which is on Turkey's changing strategic vision in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea. I'll try to share my screen and start up my presentation. Since everything has history, the crisis in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea has also its particular and bilateral histories. Well, what happened in the last decade in this Mediterranean Sea mostly circles around three countries, in my perception at least. Those three countries are Egypt, Turkey, and Israel. Greece is a certain additional part of this triangle, but I think the central triangle of the Eastern Mediterranean crisis circles around these three countries, namely Israel, Turkey, and Egypt, as I mentioned. Because this is why my perception is intended to that. Why? Because Egypt has been experiencing an enormous transformation after the Arab Springs. There was a governmental change, there was a revolution, and then a counter-revolution, and there was a coup d'etat, and things have been really sort of turbulent in the Egyptian economy, which made Egypt more dependent on the foreign sources, both in terms of economy and political power. Turkey and Israel are interrelated to each other because of the flotilla crisis, as we see in the timeline. I think the inception point of the East Mediterranean crisis was the flotilla raid itself, because until that time there was the sort of the luggage from the 2008 Israeli operations, the operations Kasli in Palestine. But I think it was reversible. But at the point after the flotilla raid, Israel and Turkey have come to an understanding that there was no returning from the position which sort of antagonized and stigmatized the other. Israel and Netanyahu kept stigmatizing and sort of blaming Turkey for all the negative developments in the region, and Turkey kept pressurizing Israel both both for his activities in Palestine and its eager sort of sense of power accumulation in the East Mediterranean Sea and in the Middle East in general. Then come the Arab Spring, of course. Arab Spring sort of shook the Eastern Mediterranean as well as the Middle East. Although the crisis was central in the Middle East, it sort of made Eastern Mediterranean Sea a more turbulent region because of the countries experienced swift and sort of deep, impactful changes because of the political developments in those countries. For example, Egypt experienced a revolution, and then the democratic elections were there, and Morsi was elected, and then there was a coup d'etat, and all of the developments, internal domestic developments in the country, sort of repercussed itself on the foreign policy, as these changes in 2-3 years sort of forced the region to become a more dynamic, active, and not robust in terms of platform. So there was like a shaky platform in the Eastern Mediterranean after the Arab Springs began, and everything was different because Yemen, everything was changing from the Red Sea. to Greece, and like there was these economic problems as well experienced and accompanied Arab Spring, which sort of enforced the Middle Eastern states' hand to sort of stay closer to the Western allies, because this is where the money comes from in the practical terms. And the money is really important for countries like Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Tunisia, Lebanon, Syria. Everything is about economy for those countries, because other than economy, the domestic ruling group doesn't have any legitimizing process. They have to have the economic upper hand, economic rents, to sort of allocate them by their will to continue and maintain their relationships, the hierarchical relationships in the domestic political settings. After that, we had the exclusive economic zone debate come to the Eastern Mediterranean Sea debate during the 2015s. I think this was seen as a method of sort of prioritizing and privatizing the small regions, small energy pockets that were sort of discovered and then sort of utilized by the host state, like Egypt, Israel, Lebanon, and other states who had energy sources in their shores, and the countries, the Western allies, who were sort of authorized to exploit those natural resources. This relationship became too dependent as the regional states become really dependent on the Western allies to exploit this energy. Without them, it was, except Israel and Turkey, it's really impossible for any country to exploit an energy source found in their shore and turn it into a useful and sellable commodity. This is really important for those countries to become dependent on the Western allies, because other than Gazprom or Total or any, there are no multinational companies that can come with the necessary permissions and act upon these small energy pockets and exploit the energy and turn it into a sellable commodity for the host country. So this income source needs a second stage, which completely depends on a Western ally. That's why Egypt mostly depends on the Western allies in its strategic decisions in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea. I think this dependency is going to become a problem in the coming decade with an increasing momentum. And then there was the coup d'etat attempt in Turkey, which sort of shook all the international system itself, because this attempt got Turkey more reactive in every dimension of foreign policy. And of course, the Eastern Mediterranean Sea was a part of it. So the Arab Spring, the economic problems, increasing dependency of the regional powers to the Western allies, and the Turkish coup d'etat attempt brought a new Eastern Mediterranean Sea definition to the table. Like from boot to ground, there was a new Eastern Mediterranean Sea in the eyes of the politicians, even though Erdogan was like on the government for like more than a decade. Even his vision of Eastern Mediterranean Sea, even his colleagues' vision towards the Eastern Mediterranean Sea experienced a total change after the coup d'etat attempt, because that was sort of a certain step that Turkey experienced, that it was the ruling group's idea about anything on foreign policy was completely raveled and changed because of the completely determined US opposition on the AK Party's ruling group's ideas. Added on, there was a Qatari crisis, there was a Gulf crisis in 2017, which added up to the crisis. Why? Because Qatari crisis sort of grouped and stratified the Middle Eastern countries in itself. Turkey, Qatar, and Somali was on one camp. Jordan was trying to sort of position itself near to the Turkey-Qatari camp, but it wasn't able to do that. And on the other camp, it was Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, or almost all of the other countries in the Middle East sort of positioned themselves in the other camp, which divided the region in any issue. After that year, the natural resources discoveries took place with a momentum, with an increasing momentum. Many gas pockets were found, and after all these discoveries and sort of the changing understanding, changing perception of the Saudi Arabia-Egypt camp, there was an understanding on the table that there was need to sort of bring together these countries in a political institution. So that's why the Eastern Mediterranean Gas Forum was formed. It was formed under the partnership of Italy, Egypt, Greece, Cyprus, Israel, and Palestinian Authority and Jordan. It's like seeing the Palestinian Authority might be a shock at the time. It was a shock at the time, but it's quite understandable imagining the shorelines and anything sellable, anything commodifiable comes from this forum, as like Palestinian Authority didn't have the chance to be on the Turkish side and have any sort of income from the energy sources found in its shores, because Israel technically controls it. And from this process, from this moment on, the establishment of Eastern Mediterranean Gas Forum, everything completely changed as an alliance was sort of in the formation against Turkey in the East Mediterranean Sea. Like, East Mediterranean Sea is really important for Turkey, because I think it has one of the longest shorelines in the East Mediterranean Sea. Although Turkey and Greece sort of name a part of it, in the northern part of it is the Aegean Sea, it's also better known as a part of the Mediterranean Sea. There are really salient issues between countries. Turkey and Greece has a problem in the northern part of the Mediterranean, and Turkey and Greece and Israel have a real problem with including Cyprus in the eastern part of it. So there are conflictual, like there are really salient issues that are really easy to escalate. The Cyprus issue itself still is not resolved, which means that any kind of military involvement and any kind of military escalation could lead to an interstate conflict. This may not turn into a war, because like there are, as Mr. MEVLÜTOğlu mentioned, there are great powers in the region as well. Like United Kingdom basically, in practical terms, continues to patrol and govern the area as what happens and what cannot happen. So there are Russia and United States, on the other hand, on the back end, waiting for cost signals. As we all see in the timeline, like events started to escalate in 2019 with the S-400's arrival in Turkey, and Turkey's start for gas explorations, and Turkey started to drill the Eastern Mediterranean Sea, and Turkey started to send patrol ships and corvettes and frigates to sort of impede the other countries' search for gas. Like this is really important, because Turkey doesn't only want to explore the gas itself, but it also wants to protect its rights where it's possible, because this is a shoreline shared by as I mentioned, as a triangle. Turkey, Egypt, and Israel holds the great exclusive economic zone rights in the eastern part of the region, and because of Cyprus, Greece, Israel triangle, the economic zones works against Turkey. So Turkey has to find a way to dysfunction this Cyprus issue. So because of the Cyprus issue, Turkey cannot really work and move around the island, and the island sort of basically holds up the half of the eastern part of the region, according to calculations. And the contemporary timeline shows that we don't have really much room to move in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea in terms of states and visionary strategies to exploit as much as possible, because all the states in the region, all of the Eastern Mediterranean partners are trying to exploit as much as possible to This might be an offensive realist perspective, but it is what is practically observed in the region, as each state distinctly prepares and tries to exploit as much more energy, as much more commodifiable products to be able to have and sell in the future, because the reservations and the discoveries of the natural gas resources sort of are really huge in terms of economy, because it's projected that, for example, only for Egypt, what was found in the Egyptian shores, the natural resources, is more than enough to sort of continue to support Egyptian economy for 200 years. So it's huge in terms of numbers, and Israel has been able to found a really substantial amount of natural gas resources in Leviathan energy pocket. And this Turkey wants to do the same, as like Turkey found some gas resources in the Black Sea, but it knows, like everybody knows actually in the industry, everybody knows that there are some natural gas resources on the shores of Turkey. Like either it's in the Aegean part, in the northern part, either it's in the southern part, or either it's somewhere between Libyan and Turkish coastal area. Everybody knows that there are other natural gas pockets to be discovered. This enforces the states, all of the members of the region, to enact their military powers, their diplomatic powers, their political strategies to exploit the energy income as much as possible. The thing about single issue alliance is that there is an issue that either two or more states agree upon. They have a common interest in that, and it seems like Cyprus, Egypt, France, Greece, and the United Arab Emirates, alongside with Italy, France, in terms of providing the necessary tools to exploit the energy, have a common interest, which is the share of energy income coming from the Eastern Mediterranean Sea. But one thing is that Turkey wants to have a share of it, naturally, because each state wants to exploit the natural resources available. That's like one of the main rules of maintaining a state. Like if you have a certain territory defined, you will have to, or you want to exploit the available natural resources to generate a resource of income and maintain yourself independently, because all of the states are trying to become more independent in the energy dimension, which forces countries to sort of disperse and divert from their current foreign policies. Because, like for example, imagine you're Germany and you almost import all of the gas import from Russia, and you have to consider Russia when you are sort of projecting your foreign policy. And that's why there is, I claim that there is a single issue alliance against Turkey, and Turkey is practically left alone, because the Qatari support and the other countries' support doesn't really turn into a practical dynamic in the East Mediterranean Sea. Turkey is trying to act like the sole power, and it's acting upon its right and trying to defend what it can exploit. And I want to show the map and finish my presentation. There's a practical map of Eastern Mediterranean Sea and how the countries are trying to block each other from reaching and exploring more natural gas resources. The blue strip lines sort of define the Turkey-Libya demarcation in the East Mediterranean Sea, which was designed to block any sort of production of the pipeline under the East Mediterranean Sea, because the talks have been around that Israel and Egypt wanted to build a pipeline that is going to transfer the natural gas resources as LNG to Europe through Greece. and Turkey was opposing that because it meant the use of energy pockets and transfer of energy resources without any income to Turkey, without any share to Turkey. And the currently defined exclusive economic zones in the region is working against the Turkish interests practically, and that's why Turkey is using a military hand when necessary, using and flexing the military muscles when necessary. As Mr. MEVLÜTOğlu mentioned, Turkey has one of the strongest maritime and aerial power in the region. It seems like there is going to be a conflict in a point of this process, but we don't know when. It's practically a quagmire at the moment, and the countries will try to continue and maintain their interest in the region, and there are going to be many bilateral agreements which are deemed unrecognizable, which are designated null by the other countries, and there are going to further disputes when the pipelines are trying to be inserted and constructed. And I'll conclude my presentation here, and we will have a question and answer session with the panelists. Thank you for listening. The first question is for Giuseppe. Giuseppe, can you hear me right now?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have the first question pointed to you, and then we'll have other questions for you as well. But I'll ask each one of you one question and then come back to you, all right?
Okay, okay.
The question of Mbera Dinler is about Egypt. I think she wanted to ask if Egypt was at the state of an independent foreign policy making like Turkey, would it still act the same in the East Mediterranean Sea?
Sorry, can you repeat because it's interrupted the line in this moment.
All right. She wants to learn that if Egypt was at the state of an independent foreign policy making like Turkey, would it still act the same in the East Mediterranean Sea?
Okay. Well, in this sense, Egypt and Turkey move on the same direction in the Eastern Mediterranean, and in this sense, we can consider Egypt and Turkey the same face of the same coin, because despite their position about some dossiers, about some issues in Libya, or like in the Eastern Mediterranean, in terms of cooperation, this country push a different foreign policy with the same or more similar assets and instruments. For example, Arda explained very well how the balance of power in terms of naval projection is more relevant for both countries. At the same time, in your presentation, it emerged how the Eastern Mediterranean is a quagmire, and every country moves in terms of ambition, geopolitical ambition and interest. And in this sense, this country create more frictions they could trigger towards a conflict or conflictual relations. In my opinion, it's possible that a good solution, a possible solution to de-escalate tensions, to create possibility for a diplomatic solution and to have a good reaction among the several littoral countries, is to foster a multilateral framework. I'm very sure that this is the only way to way out from this deadlock. because nothing have the capability to have the to have a solution, but also to have a situation to improve other combination. And for this reason, I think that Egypt, like Turkey, need to talk about their differences. And in this sense, the Libyan crisis is a clear example on what and where the country could be and could go on. And in this sense, I think that Egypt and Turkey need to restart their relations for the stability of the region and for a good opportunity for the trans-regional connection among the Mediterranean, Middle East, Black Sea, Africa. In this sense, we have a total confusion, a global or trans-regional destabilization in a wider quadrant. And this wider quadrant is connected among Europe, Africa, and Asia. In this sense, I think this is the opportunity, and multilateral framework is an opportunity. Well, it's not the solution, but it's an opportunity.
Thank you, Giuseppe.
But an inclusive multilateral framework in this sense.
We will have another question for Arda. Arda, Serrajan wanted to know that if there was a significant change in this Mediterranean power structure, from which area it would come, the aerospace, land, or maritime dimension?
The current trends show us that the four major states are putting special emphasis on upgrading their capabilities in air and naval domains. And I think that both will get more portion from defense spending and defense budgets. But I think that if tensions and if geopolitical issues continue the same way, I think these countries will also divert more sources to increase their electronic warfare and drone capabilities, because these capabilities, these systems provide capabilities that can be used not in conflict time, not during crisis, but also in peacetime. And also they are very useful in collecting strategic intelligence on the movements, on the actions of opponent sides. And I think that the Eastern Mediterranean will see more and more electromagnetic warfare or electromagnetic competition in the coming periods. More and more electronic warfare attacks or electronic warfare attempts by coastal and non-coastal states to exploit the deficiencies or disadvantages of the other side, or to collect more data, because collecting such data, collecting such intelligence provides very useful data, very useful information for the decision makers to plan and conduct their activities. And as we see in the cases in Syria, Libya, proxy wars have become a reality. Proxy wars are the new style of warfare, and such things are very useful in conducting operations in peacetime and also in crisis time.
Right. There's a question to myself, and the question comes from Andres Kurt. He wanted to know what would repel Turkey from the current strategy in the East Mediterranean Sea. It's a very tough question to answer, actually. Like, we don't really know what could repel from Turkey from anything, basically, because of the economic decline experienced in the recent decade. In the last decade, could really repelled from Turkey, from some actions in Syria, some actions in Eastern Mediterranean, and some financial nationalism movements, but it didn't really seem to be working. Turkey even was sanctioned by this because of the S-400 acquisition, and still that didn't really stop Turkey from moving on with the strategic vision. But I think a superpower intervention in the East Mediterranean Sea could stop everything from happening in the current sense. If there was a sort of an aircraft carrier sent to the East Mediterranean Sea, and there was a NATO, or it cannot be NATO because Turkey is a member of NATO as well, but there is a large force patrolling East Mediterranean Sea, impeding all of the explorations, that would stop Turkey with all countries as well. I think Turkey won't stop exploring the gas as well as other countries are doing it. So, and a stop to all might stop Turkey as well. That's, I think, only thing came to my mind, because anything from the structure, the international structure from above, can enforce middle powers to change their foreign policy. That's the only option that comes to my mind. Giuseppe, we are here for your second question. It's about the Turkish-Egyptian sort of a competition-wise rivalry. The question says, if Turkey and Egypt somehow solve their problems and abide to a common strategy in the East Mediterranean Sea, what should be expected out of it?
Yeah.
So if the competition ends and there is a good common ground between the two countries, what should change?
Yeah, it's clear. Maybe. It's a good question, but I'm not a magician. Well, anyway, it's possible that in a escalating relation between Egypt and Turkey, the better situation is profitable for the regional stabilization and for the regional security system. In this sense, we have the opportunity to create a new platform in which the main country like Egypt, Turkey, Israel, and country from the European shore like France and Italy could work together to build a new path of cooperation. In this sense, this path is useful to protect the region from external intervention from extra-regional actors, in this sense, Gulf powers or international powers like Russia, United States, and China. At the same time, this platform create a framework, an operational framework in which Mediterranean country, led by Egypt, Turkey, and Israel, have a strong impact in several dimensions of politics, security, economics, infrastructure. In this sense, this is an opportunity to remodel the regional system and to work to create a new regional system, a more integrated regional system, a more cooperative regional system. But in my opinion, the real change depends from the situation in Libya. The situation in Libya is the turning point for the definition of a new regional system, because through the resolution of Libyan dossier, we have the opportunity to create a new change and a shift in the bilateral relation between Egypt and Turkey, and then among the other countries of the region.
Thank you, Giuseppe. The last question is for Arda. I think one of the members of the audience wanted to know that how do you think United Kingdom would balance the situation if there was a conflict to come about?
First of all, I think the risk of an actual conflict between states is not very has significantly decreased. Yes, there is some risk. There was high risk between Turkey and Greece in the previous months. Yes, we can say that the risk is still there, but significantly low. I think United Kingdom will always play a balancing actor, not very prominently, not on the stage, very visible, but through diplomacy and maybe through means of display of power, and also by mobilizing NATO channels or other diplomatic assets. But I think United Kingdom in such a crisis or in such a scenario will not be visible at this stage on the front lines. Again, I say that I think that the risk of an armed conflict between states has significantly decreased, but in regions such as Libya, Syria, proxy wars or indirect conflicts between states might still continue, and those areas might be the points where that excess geopolitical energy might be relaxed through conflicts by actors that are supported by those states. And but I agree with Giuseppe that these countries, Turkey, Egypt, Turkey, Israel, need to come together, need to open channels, diplomatic channels, and diplomatic conversations and debates even, to even more decrease the risk of armed conflict, because such a conflict will not be bilateral, it will be multilateral, it will damage all sides, and it's the worst case scenario. And in order to prevent such scenarios, those countries need to come together and seek ways to establish and maintain dialogue.
Thank you, Arda, and thank you all my colleagues. I think this was a useful and beneficial panel for the audience. I thank you all for your participation, for your well-prepared presentations. We all can now leave the floor, and our panel has been ended. Thank you again for your participation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to all for this great discussion.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.